There is arguably no better feeling in fantasy football than when you land an absolute steal. You get my 2025 Fantasy Football Draft Dominator, which is jam-packed with strategy and analysis for 250-plus players. And he's been strong in fantasy football. He's averaging over 18 fantasy points per game over 25 career games where he's played at least 73% of the offensive snaps. 2025 Week Winner, formerly known as the Heat Map. So you can conquer start-sit dilemmas, find plug-and-play streamers, and dominate your weekly matchups with this one-of-a-kind resource, Discord community, where you can get personalized advice from 180-plus and counting sharp fantasy football minds that are helping each other dominate. 365 days of elite fantasy football analysis, resources, and Discord community. Woo, man, I love that intro. I never get to see the intro before I start recording. It's always like I record it and send it off. I never get to see it. So now I'm like, I'm hyped. I'm jacked up. What is up, my friend? Mikey Henninger, Basement Brood Fantasy Football. Welcome to week one. And you'll see, I finally have a co-host hanging out with me. You've seen him in the past. You may have seen him on some other shows. Tanner Dawson's in the building. Tanner, what's up, my guy?
What's up, everybody? Happy to be here. Happy to be on with you, and just excited that football is here.
Football is here. So sorry about your Chiefs last night, Tanner. I wore the red and yellow, partially to support you, partially to support my Wisconsin Badgers. But when I was trying to choose which color BBFF shirt I was going with, I thought of you and your Chiefs. So
I appreciate that. It was it was a good game for football fans. It was It was a tough game to watch for Chiefs fans. Overall, there's some highlights there. There's some lows. So it's week one. Time to move on.
Yeah, man. I hear you. So for those of you who don't know, Tanner's usually the magic man behind the scenes of Inside the 20. And this is episode 63. Tanner has been the guy to behind the scenes editing all 62 out of the 63. But he's been the guy behind the scenes, basically just making the show as awesome as it is. My job when I do get comments on LinkedIn, people are like, man, your editing is terrific. And I'm like, I literally just press record and start talking fantasy football. Tanner's the guy who makes it awesome. So I appreciate you, buddy. I'm really happy to have you on the show to help kind of keep me in check here. So
hey, I'm happy to be here. I'm glad we were able to make this work, man. Really. So
heck yeah, man. And I don't know about you, it being a Saturday and working on the weekends, I got to kick this thing off with a beer. I'm going River West Stein. I live in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. Have you had River West, Tanner?
I have. It's pretty solid stuff there.
Yeah, so I got to say it's one of my favorites. But anyways, let's get into some fantasy football here. So if you are new to this, which is pretty likely considering this is week one, but we did a couple of these shows last year. A couple quick things that I want to note. Now, number one, we got a couple start-sit questions from members of the BBFF community, BBFF family, questions that we got inside the Discord server that we're going to go through here, right? Some of those really sticky start-sit dilemmas, right? Who do I start? Who do I leave on my bench? You know what I'm talking about. It happens all week, every week during the fantasy football season. Now, I'm going to warn you right now, if you're tuning in, if you're expecting quick hit answers, if you're expecting for me to just be like, name a guy and go on to the next question, that's not what's going to happen here. I have a very strict no gut policy, meaning my answers that I give you are never going to be in my opinion or I feel in my gut ever. All of the answers that I give you are going to be backed 100% by stats, facts, data, and we're going to go through what that looks like. We're going to go through and workshop these decisions together, okay? So I'm just warning you, the answers aren't always going to go quick. Some of the answers might take literally 6, 7, 8 minutes at a time. So without further ado, I let Tanner be the guy who decides which one's going first, just to surprise me. I don't know where we're going to start. I don't know what we're going with, but Tanner, what do you got? What do you got queued up for everybody?
Yeah, so like Mikey said in the Discord that the BBFF subscribers are a part of, got a nice list of questions here for Mikey, and we're going to start off here, I think, with the big hitter. It's a big hitter in most people's minds, maybe not in yours. David Njoku versus Sam Laporta. Who we starting? Who we liking?
Dude, I love that you picked this one, by the way. Anybody who's in the Discord server knows this. I love David Njoku this week. In fact, this is probably why you picked that one. I jokingly wrote in response to that, Njoku 1.01 over everybody this week. I don't care. Just Njoku. Joe Flacco, when he was named the starter, David Njoku instantly became somebody that I was already high on David Njoku going into the season, and I became higher on him when they named Joe Flacco the week 1 starter. When you looked at his Vegas props or his Vegas lines coming into the season, his numbers were inching up there near Trey McBride, George Kittle. Like his over-unders on catches, yards, touchdowns were getting close to that elite tier. So he was one of my most drafted players. Let's dive into it here. So Tanner, how do we share our computer screen here?
Hey.
There we go. All right, cool. So what you guys are looking at right now, this is something that I create every single week. This is called the week winner, formerly known as the heat map. If you've tuned in previous years, you've seen this before. It's called the heat map in the past. Nowadays, we're calling it the week winner. It feels a little bit more accurate. What this is contextual matchup analysis for literally every single player in every single game. So when you have these tough start-sit dilemmas, we go through them you go through and click on any player's name that you're looking at. So in this case, we're looking for, let's start out with David Njoku since we already started talking about him to begin with. That game is Bengals-Browns, game number 3 on the week winner. It looks like it's going to be a solid scoring game, 48.5 point over under, but the story here is really the spread, right? The Browns are 5.5 point underdogs. That suggests a negative game script. Theoretically, they will be playing this game from behind. Theoretically, they're going to have to throw the ball early and often, possibly eventually abandoning the run if they fall behind the Bengals by a significant margin. That's a good thing for David Njoku. That means that there's a possibility we're going to see a bigger level of volume for David Njoku, right? So this is game 3 on the week winner. And as you'll see here with the blue dot, David Njoku, right? You double click on his name and you are going to get, let me scroll so that it gets, here we go. You are going to get a full matchup analysis, a full breakdown of what to expect from David Njoku in week 1. I'm going to blow this up a little bit so that you can see that a little bit better. We'll just kind of zoom all over the place here. All right. So I'm all about David Njoku here in week 1, and here's why. Now, bottom line, this is a guy who's he's a locked-in tight end 1. He's got genuine top 3 upside. I'm expecting 14-ish PPR points from David Njoku in a pass-heavy game script, especially given his elite Joe Flacco splits, games that he's played with Joe Flacco. We've already seen it. As you'll see, back in 2023, when Joe Flacco was quarterbacking the Cleveland Browns, David Njoku averaged 18-plus PPR points and 9-plus targets per game in 6 games that he played with Joey Flacco. He scored 16 or more PPR points in 75% of those contests. He has a really nice career splits against the Cincinnati Bengals. He's played 11 different games against them of 31 or more offensive snaps, averaging a really strong 11-plus PPR points, 5-plus targets. He scored 10 or more PPR points in 55% of those games. And oh, by the way, last year's Cincinnati Bengals were the worst team in all of football when it came to defending tight ends. They allowed the most PPR points per game, the most catches, the second most yards, second most touchdowns. Now, take all of that with a grain of salt. Defenses change year over year. It's unlikely they're going to be the worst possible defense against tight ends this year, but it's certainly not a bad thing that they were so, I mean, it's bad for them, but it's not bad for David Njoku that they were so miserable against tight end last year. And now we're getting Joe Flacco, who might throw the ball 40 plus times and already has documented success with David Njoku. There's just a lot to love about David Njoku this year, but especially this week. Now, as for Sam Laporta, right now with this whole thing being zoomed in so hard, they're so big, it's hard for me to see some of this stuff. Sam Laporta, I still like as a tight end, but I'm a lot less bullish on Sam Laporta in week 1 than I am on David Njoku. Now, he is one of those every week tight end number ones, right? If you have him, typically you put him in your lineup. It's rare to be able to be in a scenario where you can start David Njoku or Sam Laporta. This week, I'm expecting somewhere between 10 and 14 PPR points on anywhere between 4 and 7 targets. He has a new offensive coordinator, which we'll talk about in just a minute. That adds some slight volatility that'll threaten his floor. But Green Bay was pretty generous to tight ends last year. And again, we're going to talk about that in a minute. Now, as for the game itself, Packers-Lions, this one projects as a potential shootout with a 47.5 point over-under. And that's tied for the 3rd highest over-under among all 16 games on the week 1 slate. So there's plenty of upside to this contest. Now, that being said, the Lions' implied point total is actually a sliver below average, which is rare in recent years when it comes to the Lions. Their implied point total is 22.5 points, which is tied with the Falcons for the 14th, quote unquote, fewest among all 32 teams on the slate. All right. So they're right in the middle in terms of expected scoring. Now, Sam Laporta, he did take a step back in 2024 after his rookie year, where he averaged 14 PPR points per game and 7+ targets per game. Last year, he dropped down to 11 PPR points and 5.3 targets per game. And now some of that had to do with the emergence of Jameson Williams, but that hasn't changed. Jameson Williams is back in 2024, not to mention that brand new offensive coordinator that we're talking about here. Now, as for that brand new offensive coordinator, John Morton, if you really want to dig into his resume, I got that all right here for you in the week 1 week winner. For the sake of time, I'm not going to read this all to you right now, but the TLDR, I'm much less optimistic. I'm much less bullish about John Morton as an offensive coordinator as I am about Ben Johnson, and rightfully so. Ben Johnson's arguably the greatest offensive mind in football in 2025. Now, if you want to get his career against the Packers, his matchup against the Packers, last year's Packers were above average matchup for tight ends. They did limit to the 12th fewest touchdowns, but they otherwise allowed the 10th most catches, 10th most yards, and 11th most PPR points. But still, that's not even close to what we're seeing in terms of matchup with David Njoku. It's not going to happen every week, but this is a week where I personally would go with David Njoku over Sam Laporta. I wouldn't say it's like 75 to 25 type of split, but I'd feel comfortable saying 60 to 40 in favor of Njoku.
Very well. Very well. Hope that helps a lot of people out here. We do got one more question from our Discord here before we move into our comment section here.
Okay.
JJ McCarthy or Drake May?
JJ McCarthy or Drake May? That's a tough one, right? Because we got two like sophomore quarterbacks. I don't know if JJ McCarthy counts as a sophomore quarterback, but
I don't think he does.
Before we dive into that one, Tanner, we do got to give a quick shout out to the old sponsors, Infinity Labs. These guys have been with us since the start, so I don't know if we got that one queued up already.
Here we go.
Are you a software wizard? A code ninja? A forge master? Or maybe even just a mad scientist? Then come build your career ladder with Infinity Labs, an award-winning technology company, best place to work, and business of the year with best-in-class benefits and compensation. Visit i-labs.tech. That's i-labs.tech today, where you can learn more about Infinity Labs, our expanding national presence, and why the status quo has no hold on us. Good old Infinity Labs. I love those guys, man. All right, JJ McCarthy or Drake May. So we're going to start this thing off with JJ McCarthy. Bottom line, after all the analysis, all the research I did studying this matchup, I'm approaching JJ McCarthy as a risky QB2/streamer in a low scoring game. I'm expecting anywhere between 13 and 17 fantasy points on modest volume and some turnover risk. Now, the game itself, I'm not expecting a ton of fantasy football fireworks out of Bears Vikings, right? It's expected to be a very closely fought game. The spread is only 1.5, but both teams are sporting bottom 14 implied point totals. suggesting that touchdowns are going to be few and far between in what will likely be a close fought but low scoring contest. I'm starting my studs. There's no way I'm benching a guy like Justin Jefferson, but all of those fringe players I'm approaching with caution. I'm approaching them as if there's a red flag there, right? Now, Kevin O'Connell has a great resume with quarterbacks, as we know. I mean, we saw what he did for Kirk Cousins. We saw what he did for Sam Darnold. In the 3 years that he's been the coach for the Vikings, they've finished 4th or higher in passing attempts in 2 of those years, 6th or higher in passing yards in all 3 of those years, and 5th or higher in passing touchdowns in all 3 of those years. Kirk Cousins and Sam Darnold both were top 9 quarterbacks in all 3 seasons that Kevin O'Connell was the coach for the Vikings. This is all good news for JJ McCarthy, but it's also his first game as a pro. He's going up against the Chicago Bears, and that was not a pretty environment for fantasy quarterbacks last year. Last year's Chicago Bears were the best in all of football when it came to stuffing quarterbacks. They limited quarterbacks to the 16th fewest passing yards, the fewest passing touchdowns, the 3rd fewest rushing yards, the 7th fewest rushing touchdowns, and ultimately the fewest fantasy football points per game. They allowed less than 14 fantasy points per game from opposing quarterbacks. Okay. So there's just a lot that's working against JJ McCarthy in week 1. It looks like it'll be a lower scoring game, tougher defense, just not a lot to feel particularly optimistic about there. As for Drake May, I wouldn't say that I love Drake May. There's a reason he's in this yellow column, right? If you go into the green, that's where we're feeling really good about players. Blue is when we're expecting an explosion week. Yellow's just kind of meh. Yellow is like a mediocre average type of week. And that's kind of how I feel about Drake May this week. I'm treating him as a solid floor quarterback or QB2. He does have a nice rushing floor, but he does have some nice QB1 upside, even in a lower scoring game. I'm approaching Drake May as if we're going to land somewhere between 14 and 19 fantasy points, efficient volume, modest rushing. Now, there is a path to 20 plus fantasy points if he's able to put 2 or 3 red zone touchdowns in the end zone against a Raiders defense that bled passing scores just last year, which we'll talk about in just a minute. The game itself is similar to the Bears Vikings game. We're expecting it to be close, but it's going to be a slower, low scoring game. The 43.5 point over under, that's tied for the 3rd lowest among all 16 games on the slate. And that suggests, like the Bears Vikings, there's just not going to be too many touchdowns, too many fantasy football fireworks. Now, that said, the Patriots in particular, if you look at their implied point total, they do have a 23 plus point total, which is good enough for the 13th best projection heading into week 1. So while the game itself will probably be low scoring, the Patriots are actually in the upper echelon of projected scoring here in week 1. Now, Drake May, pretty terrific last year in 8 career games where he threw at least 25 pass attempts. He averaged just shy of 18 fantasy points per game, over just about 35 passing attempts. He scored 17 or more fantasy points about 75% of the time. He showed a really nice ceiling, getting you 21 or more fantasy points about 25% of the time. Really, really nice first year for Drake May. He's got new and improved weapons. They signed Stephon Diggs. They spent an early 3rd round pick on Kyle Williams, early 2nd round pick on Tre'Veon Henderson. That offense is definitely headed in the right direction under Drake May. There's a lot to like about the Patriots moving into 2025. Now, the matchup itself, last year's Raiders, they were a friendly opponent for quarterbacks. They did allow the 15th most passing yards, 5th most passing touchdowns, which is where we're hoping Drake May butters his bread. But they also allowed the 12th most fantasy points per game. Now, to be fair, they did limit quarterbacks to the 8th fewest rushing yards and the 15th fewest rushing touchdowns. But ultimately, a lot of that is quarterback dependent, and Drake May should still get his on the ground. If I'm choosing between JJ McCarthy or Drake May, I'm going with Drake May here.
There you go, ladies and gentlemen. Now we will switch over to the comments here, right? We still have a few more Discord questions to get to today during the show, but let's switch over to the comments here. We do got a comment here. And this is start 2, best of 3, right?
Okay.
Comment here, but Kyle Siebert, audio. Kyle, thanks for commenting in. Appreciate you. Start 2, Shakir, Coleman, and Myers. Yes, Josh Allen. He's at 35% chance to win, but he lost Worthy and had Pickens.
Yeah. So I like where your head's at here, Kyle. And like Tanner said, thank you very much for tuning in. Thanks for dropping a comment here. I like where your head's at in terms of thinking about adjusting to what has already transpired in your fantasy football matchup, right? There's a lot of people that just kind of look at projections and just leave it at that. But you have the right idea of thinking, hey, man, if I want any chance of winning this thing, we got to aim for the ceiling. I do see that in your next comment. You're thinking of going for a home run stack with Shakir and Coleman. The thinking is, wondering if I should go for a home run. The thinking is spot on, right? You have a 35% chance of winning. You need to take a couple swings. Singles, doubles aren't going to do it for you. You got to swing for the fences, right? So let's approach this question with that in mind. We want to swing for the fences. If you're comfortable with the risk of a possible zero, we'll keep that in mind, right? That's kind of what we're going for here. So what are our options here again? We got Khalil Shakir, Keon Coleman, and Jacoby Myers. See now, Jacoby Myers, that's going to be tough for me to get out of fantasy draft mode and into week 1 mode because I loved Jacoby Myers coming into this season. But where should we start? Let's start with the Buffalo Bills and Baltimore Ravens. For starters, that game, dude, this thing is so zoomed in that it's hard to navigate right now. The Bills and Ravens, if you're swinging for the fences, you're swinging for upside, this is the game. This is the game that you want to target. Their over-under is 50.5 points. No other over-under on the entire slate comes even close. Bengals-Browns are the next closest at 48.5. We're also expecting it to be a close game, right? It's less than 2 points that separate them in the spread. Both teams have an implied point total of 24 or more points. This is the game that you want to target. This will be the most heavily targeted game in DFS. Oh, well, no, it's Sunday night, so I guess it won't be the most heavily targeted game in DFS, but you get the idea. If we're swinging for the fences, this game is a great place to start. Now, as for the Buffalo Bills, we like their implied point total, 24.5 points. That is strong. That's solid. That's above average. You can see here this number 8 that's next to the Ravens in the third column. That's the wide receiver column. That suggests that the Ravens allowed the 8th most PPR points per game to opposing wide receivers last year. That's a good thing if you're thinking about a Bills wide receiver. Now, you're thinking about 2 different Bills wide receivers, right? I'm going to scroll down here. Let me zoom over a little bit with this whole bad boy zoomed in. We're going down to Buffalo, and we're going to start this thing with Khalil Shakir. Right? Coming into this week, there was concern about Khalil Shakir's injury, but as far as the last I saw, he's off the injury report. There's nothing to be concerned about as far as lingering injury goes for Khalil Shakir. And that's great because he came into this season projected to be there, by all intents and purposes, their wide receiver 1 when it comes to targets, catches, yards, the whole 9. I'm approaching him as a reliable wide receiver 3 with a steady PPR floor. That's the key word here, right? Because we're aiming for ceiling as Josh Allen's chain mover. I'm looking for 11 to 15 PPR points based on 6 to 9 very nice targets. We already talked about the game environment. Khalil Shakir played 18 games as the Bills' quote-unquote wide receiver 1 without Stephon Diggs last year, and he was solid. 12-plus PPR points, 6-plus targets per game. This is where it really makes sense to zero in on a guy like Khalil Shakir, however. Great floor, right? He's getting you 10-plus PPR points per game, 75 or 10-plus PPR points 75% of the time. Great floor. Solid floor, let's say. In fact, 50% of the time he's getting you 12 PPR points, but his ceiling, not really a big ceiling guy, right? We're looking at 15 plus PPR points, and even that is only 25% of the time last year, his best year with the Bills. Absolute best for Khalil Shakir, like if you want to look at his best possible weeks, he did occasionally reach 20 PPR points, but he did it 10% of the time. He did it 1 in every 10 games. Not really a ceiling guy. He's more of a safe floor kind of guy. Okay. So we'll come back to that in a minute. Now, the matchup itself, there's not going to be anything that's particularly friendly or exciting about this, right? Because last year's Ravens were already top 8 matchup for wide receivers. They did excuse me. Last year's Ravens were top 8, meaning they gave up the 8th most PPR points per game, 6th most catches, 5th most yards, 14th most touchdowns. But this year's Ravens added Jair Alexander. And maybe it's because I'm a Packers fan, as you can see on the thing behind me. But when Jair's got his head on right, that dude doesn't mess around. And I'm not saying like Khalil Shakir plays a ton from the slot. So I'm not saying Jair Alexander is going to cover Khalil Shakir, but Jair Alexander as a whole makes that defense better and compresses that field more than you would see. Now, the flip side of that, of course, is that Jair Alexander, if he's going to be covering Keon Coleman, that could funnel a couple more targets Khalil Shakir's way. I'm just saying, as a whole, the Ravens defense is going to be a bit better this year than last year. Let's flip this bad boy over to Keon Coleman. Okay. We already talked about the game. Let's talk about Keon Coleman, the player, right? We have 1 year of data with Keon Coleman, which obviously you always have to account for progression. We have to assume he's going to be better in year 2 than in year 1. But last year was not pretty, right? 7 PPR points, 4 targets per game, very low floor. I mean, the guy scored, he hit 10 PPR points just 25% of the time. That's a scary floor. Now the ceiling, we saw flashes of that ceiling. He got 15 plus PPR points about 10% of the time. We're expecting him to be better. I would expect him to have instances of 20 plus PPR points in 2025. And maybe that's this week. Maybe it's not. And we already talked about the matchup. But if you're trying to decide between the two of those guys, ultimately the ceiling play is Keon Coleman. You hope for the deep shot. You hope that one of those deep shots lands, scores a touchdown. It's really important that you recognize that that's not necessarily likely. We would have seen bigger and better numbers from Keon Coleman if it was likely, but it is possible. If there's a guy who's going to score a 40, 50, 60-yard touchdown in this game, it's Keon Coleman, not Khalil Shakir. Shakir's going to be the guy who racks up catches, racks up yards, and hopefully slithers his way into the end zone, but he's not really a big touchdown guy. In fact, I do have his touchdown numbers in here. Buffalo. Let me scroll down a little bit. Touchdowns. Yeah, 0.2 touchdowns per game we're getting out of Khalil Shakir. Now, Jakobi Meyers, man, I love Jakobi Meyers this season, especially like Amari Cooper just signed and retired. But let's talk about Jakobi real quick. I'm treating him like a rock solid wide receiver 2/wide receiver 3, volume driven floor. Like he's going to have a very similar floor to Khalil Shakir, but I do think he's going to have a bigger ceiling as well. He's playing against his former team, the New England Patriots. You can do with that what you will. I'm approaching this game like Jakobi's going to land somewhere between 12 and 16 PPR points, somewhere between 7 and 10 targets. The path to 17 plus is a red zone touchdown or double-digit looks if the Las Vegas Raiders do lean pass-heavy late in the game because they're trailing to the New England Patriots. And the fact that he has Geno Smith as his quarterback now, that's going to boost efficiency a little bit. We already talked about Raiders-Patriots as a game. We're expecting a lower-scoring game, a tightly fought game. The Raiders don't necessarily have a sexy implied total the same way that the Bills do. It's just 20-plus points. But we are expecting them to ultimately be on the losing end of this game. So if the Raiders do have to start putting the ball in the air, it's going to be Brock Bowers. It's going to be Jakobi Meyers, right? They might connect with Deontay Thornton or Dante. I always get that name wrong. Dante Thornton. Jack Beck could mix in there, but it's going to be Meyers. It's going to be Bowers. And if it turns pass heavy, Meyers is going to be one of the biggest beneficiaries there. Now, Meyers has played 61 career games with 50 or more offensive snaps, and he's been solid, right? 12 plus PPR points, 7 plus targets per game. He's very similar in terms of touchdowns to Khalil Shakir. He's getting you about 0.2 touchdowns per game. The ceiling is about the same as Khalil Shakir's, right? He's getting you about 17 plus PPR points, 25% of the time. That's all based off of these 61 games of data. And he's getting you 11 plus PPR points about 50% of the time. But this is where things get really, really, really exciting for Jakobi Meyers. And this is a big reason that I was very heavy on Jakobi Meyers coming into the season. Big reason that I drafted a ton of Jakobi Meyers in round 6, round 7. After Davante Adams was traded in the middle of last season, Jakobi Meyers averaged 15 PPR points and 9 plus targets per game in those 12 games as the Raiders wide receiver 1 after they traded Davante Adams. And that's compared to, so without Davante, he scored 15 PPR points on 9 targets. Before Devontae Adams, he was doing 11 PPR points on 5 targets. Okay. Adams is out of the picture. They don't have a clear-cut replacement. Brock Bowers was in the picture at the exact same time last year, so we can't say it's Brock Bowers is there because he was there last year. Now, I have to edit this now. The Raiders signed Amari Cooper, but that's out of the question. Amari Cooper's 31 years old. Doesn't matter anyway. Beck and Thornton are unproven rookies. Myers is the very clear wide receiver 1 heading into week 1. So he averaged 15 plus PPR points and 9 plus targets per game last year. And that was not with Geno Smith, right? Geno Smith is a significant upgrade on anybody that Jacoby Myers was dealing with last season. And last season, he posted new career highs in targets, catches, yards, and that was with a quarterback carousel of Gardner Minshew, Aiden O'Connell, Desmond Ridder. Now he at least gets a competent quarterback in Geno Smith. Chip Kelly's NFL resume with wide receivers in 4 seasons as a head coach, pretty solid. 6th or higher in passing attempts in 2 of 4 seasons, 12th or higher in passing yards in 3 of 4 seasons. Deshaun Jackson was a wide receiver 12. Riley Cooper, wide receiver 31. Jeremy Maclin, wide receiver 9. Pretty good resume there for Chip Kelly. And then as for the matchup, last year's Patriots were kind of subpar matchup for wide receivers. They allowed the 13th most catches, but otherwise held wide receivers to the 15th fewest yards, 12th fewest touchdowns, 14th fewest PPR points per game. But all of that is very average, very mediocre. Nothing that's particularly scary. Last I saw, their best corner will not be playing in this game. If it's me, man, and I have to make a choice between two of these 3 guys, I'm getting Jacoby Myers in there for sure. He's probably my number 1 option. And I know we said we're aiming for ceiling. That ultimately is going to be Keon Coleman. I mean, the floor is going to be super unsafe there, but you're hoping that he just kind of balls out the same way that Quentin Johnston, sorry, Tanner, to bring this up, but the way that Quentin Johnston balled out yesterday, right? He's a very Keon Coleman-esque type of player. That's going to be the ceiling, but I honestly wouldn't fault you if you do go with Shakir. It's going to be a safer bet.
All right. Appreciate the question, Kyle, as always. Man. I know, man. You're breaking down details and facts, and holy cow.
This is tough. Holy cow. I didn't do deodorant, and you can smell it, my guy.
It's like you're still playing basketball this morning, man.
Yeah.
We got one more YouTube comment here real quick here. And I think this is a little interesting because you love David Njoku, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you said it on the first question alone. Like that's your guy.
That's my guy.
Paul Hoffman wants to know if there's any kind of early season value with Harold Fannin, the backup.
Yeah. So Harold Fannin, early season value in terms of putting in my lineup. No, I'm not there. Like it's one of those guys where I need to see it to believe it. Like, he's definitely, I even put him in the heat map as a guy that's in my column F, which is the don't put in your lineup this week, but keep them on your radar because the Browns are using he looked awesome in the preseason, but he could effectively basically play wide receiver for them. And their wide receiver room it's Jerry Jeudy. I do like Cedric Tillman, but after that, so if they start using him as basically their slot receiver, I mean, Harold Fannin could easily, and then again, you got Joe Flacco. That dude averaged over 40 pass attempts per game when he was playing with the Browns a couple years ago. So if you get Fannin running slot routes and Flacco throwing it 40 plus times, there's definitely upside, potential, appeal, whatever word you want to use. Now, I'm not putting him in my week 1 lineup. I need to see his snap rate, his route percentage, all of those things. But yeah, he should definitely be on your watch list.
There we go. There we go on that. David, appreciate your comment here. Mikey the GOAT, appreciate your work.
David.
Always appreciate it here. All right, looks like we're caught up here on our YouTube questions here in our comments, guys. We are broadcasting on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch. So make sure you guys are dropping those comments. Be happy to answer in. Let's move back into a Discord question. Okay. This comes from the Discord themselves there. Always appreciate them. And is it better to start or sit Travis Hunter this week? This is a loaded. I feel like a loaded question by itself.
What are you thinking?
For me, just because I've seen what's on the depth chart alone, man, he'd be on the low end of the starters. Like I kind of, it's right on that border, just because I know Brian Thomas Jr. is there. Definitely going to get targets. I think it's going to be a little heavy on the run game with utilizing ETN and Tank. But no Evan Ingram for the Jacksonville team anymore. So that kind of opens it back up to you could start Travis and you might see some targets here. And it sounds like he's primarily on the offensive side, dabble in the corner side, primarily offensive side. So if you're looking at a tough or a deep league here, you're probably starting him. If you're looking within an 8 to 10 man league, you're probably not in my books.
I like it. I have some thoughts. I'm gonna get to those thoughts, but before we do, let's go ahead and give some love to our sponsor, BS Collectibles, if we got that one queued up.
Here we go.
Are you into sports memorabilia? Then BS Collectibles is your one-stop shop for all things autographed. Whether you're looking to buy retail, stock up wholesale, or dive into the thrill of memorabilia breaks, BS Collectibles has what you need. Check out their retail website, join the live streams, or take a shot with the Fire Factory Mystery Box series and take your collection to the next level. BS Collectibles, whatever it is, we bring the fire.
Love those guys, man. BS Collectibles, they're not even technically an official sponsor of the show. Kind of. I love them. They're great humans that run that place. If you're new to Basement Brood Fantasy Football, every single month I do a autographed jersey giveaway. They are the guys who I work with to get those jerseys, and they do such an awesome job of hunting them down. For example, one of our most recent winners, shout out to Rocco Richters, who won June's contest, I think. Big Titans guy, and he specifically asked for a Derrick Henry Titans jersey, and it took us some time, took a good month, but BS Collectibles tracked it down. We sent it his way, so he's the proud new owner of an autographed Derrick Henry jersey, Titans jersey, which is it's pretty cool. So anybody, if you're listening, give some love to BS Collectibles. Follow them on TikTok. They do live breaks all the time, which is actually one of the most entertaining things I've ever seen. They'll open up a box and there'll be an autograph helmet, and you're like, who is it? Who's it going to be? So anyway,
you can find their link as well below in the show notes as well. So
awesome. Yep. They're awesome. If you're into sports memorabilia, you got to give them a follow. Or if you like good people and entertaining stuff, yeah, got to give them a follow. What the heck was the question? Oh, Travis Hunter.
Question was Travis Hunter. Yeah, your name.
Here's what I'll say. Travis Hunter just automatically gives me a little bit of pause for a variety of reasons, right? It was one of those things where, he's a rookie. You just never know with rookies. Some of them explode onto the scene. Some of them just never pan out to be who we expect them to be. Travis Hunter, though, I mean, different animal. There's a reason that the Jaguars traded up to get him at number 2. I was there, by the way, at the draft. It was that moment was crazy. I will say it eased a little bit of the anxiety when the Jaguars officially listed him as a starting wide receiver and a backup cornerback. Now, you got to take that with a grain of salt, right? Depth charts are Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt for the Washington Commanders is the RB4. But he's getting all of the first and second work in their training camp, their preseason, RB4 on the depth chart. So anyways, my point is you got to take that with a grain of salt, but it did at least ease some of the tension. And I'll say this, if you're going to roll the dice on Travis Hunter this week, this is a good week to feel good about it. Panthers Jaguars has a pretty solid over-under, 46.5 points, meaning we're expecting decent amount of touchdowns, particularly on the Jaguars side, right? The Jaguars have a really nice implied point total, 25 points. That's well above average, top 10. I can't remember exactly where they land, but I want to say 25 has got to be close to top 5, top 6 in the entire league. They're going against a Panthers defense that allowed the 10th most PPR points per game to opposing wide receivers last year. Again, that's last year. Take it with a grain of salt, but it can't be a bad thing that they were a good matchup for wide receivers. So let's cover Travis Hunter specifically here real quick. Bottom line, I'm treating him this week as a wide receiver 3 with wide receiver 2 upside in a high scoring game. expect Travis Hunter to land anywhere between 10 and 14 PPR points on 6 to 9 very nice targets. The path to 18 plus points, touchdown, splash play against a Panthers defense that just absolutely bled wide receiver touchdown specifically last year. Now, the two-way usage, if he is going to play corner, if he is going to play wide receiver, that automatically increases injury risk, right? The more you're on the field, the more possible it is that you get hurt. That's human nature. If you're going to be playing football, you could get hurt. So if he's playing corner, that adds risk to the wide receiver profile. There's no getting around that. And it does nudge the floor down a little bit. But the game itself, we like this game, right? We already talked a little bit about it. 46.5 over under. That's the 7th highest on the week 1 slate. I thought this was interesting. This is a battle of the previous 2 Tampa Bay Buccaneers offensive coordinators, right? We got Liam Cohen, we got Dave Canales. Both guys revived the career of Baker Mayfield. Both guys are very much above average offensive coordinators. Both guys are going against defenses that were pretty bad last year. I think this game actually has really, really sneaky shootout potential. Again, I try and keep this 100 in terms of stats, facts, data. But if I'm going to throw my gut in on one thing, I'm just saying that this game feels very shootout. This game feels like it's both teams are going to get you 24 plus points. Could go over 50 points combined. I like stacking this game in DFS. It's a narrow spread, 3.5 points. That tells us it's going to be a closely contested ball game. And either way, whether you think it's going to shoot out or not, if you want to get back to the facts, Jacksonville does have an implied point total of 25 points, which is tied for the 6th highest among all 32 teams on the week 1 slate. That means we're expecting touchdowns from the Jacksonville Jaguars, and touchdowns are where you get fantasy points. So that automatically is a slight boost for Travis Hunter. Now, we talked a little bit about the player, so I'm going to skip past this part. Again, if you ever want to read any of this, all of this is always available to members of the Basement Brood Fantasy Football family. Okay. Yes, Jacob, I do read the chat. Probably not going to rate your draft. Sorry, bro. That's a lot of names. But anyway, if you guys do ever want to get access to this is available to anybody who's a member of the Basement Brood Fantasy Football family, anybody who's a member of Basement Brood Fantasy Football. So we'll skip on the Travis Hunter part. You guys already know who he is, what to expect from him. Let's get back to the matchup. Last year's Panthers were a top 10 matchup for opposing wide receivers, holding them to the 14th fewest yards, but otherwise offering the 15th most catches, 2nd most touchdowns, 10th most PPR points per game. Point is, if you are going to roll the dice on Travis Hunter, this is a decent week to do it.
There you go.
Hold on. Let me rate this draft here real quick. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. Let me see.
You want to pop on the draft here?
Yeah, if something just pops up here we go. Half PPR, 12-man, pick 7.
Snake draft.
What do you mean? Oh, pick number 7. Okay, I got you.
Pick number 7 at the 12.
1 quarterback, 2 running back, 2 wide receiver, 1 tight end, 2 flex, like it. CD, love it. Chase Brown, love it. Bowers, good. JSN, good. Pollard, I like. Caleb Johnson, I like. Golden. I mean, all of these names sound good. It's hard to rate the draft without seeing like how the draft board fell, but all the names look good. I like it. Looks good to me. I'll give that a solid B+. A couple things that I would do differently. I never would ever draft 2 quarterbacks in a league like this. I don't know if you drafted 2 tight ends. It looks like you didn't, so that's good. I wouldn't have drafted a kicker or defense unless you absolutely had to. For instance, I wouldn't be using the Packers defense this week anyway. I'd be using the streamers tab of the week winner. But yeah, man, this looks solid. That's fine. B+. Looks good.
Yeah, I was gonna say B. Sounds good to me there. We'll pop into back to YouTube here. Comments here. TS with the comment here. DJ Moore or Tet? It's PPR. Leak here. A couple guys with interesting matchups. So
yeah, and it's always, I don't know what it is now, but every time I see DJ Moore and then I see a Panther, I just instantly think of the Bears Panthers trade. So it's kind of funny that it's like their old wide receiver 1, their new wide receiver 1. Anyway, while I pull this up on the week winner, what are you thinking there, Tanner?
Well, you kind of just talked about the Travis Hunter, right? Jacksonville and Carolina, I believe, are going at it this week. So I feel like that is kind of going to be a shootout there with the unknown of how Jacksonville's defense is going to look here after some moves in the offseason. But same time, Chicago and Vikings, I mean, Caleb Williams has a lot to prove this year, and no Keenan Allen on that team. If I had to lean one way, just because it's week one here, I'd probably lean more DJ Moore on this pick here, just to see exactly how the ball disperses. I know no Adam Thielen on the Panthers, but that doesn't mean too much there for the Panthers. It depends how Bryce Young comes out, and if you remember what he did last year coming out, it wasn't the prettiest. So I'd probably lean DJ Moore from a safer bet part.
So interestingly though, Bryce Young was on fire down the stretch. He was getting 20 plus.
Yeah, he was.
He was on fire down the stretch.
He looked good.
I know you remember this, Tanner, because you edited all my episodes, but I was in love with Dave Canales going into the season, right? I was all about Dave Canales. I did a whole episode on like how he got career years out of Russell Wilson and Doug Baldwin and Mike Evans, and he revived, like Baker Mayfield was left for dead before he started working with Dave Canales. So I was all about Dave Canales last year, and sure enough, Bryce Young starts balling out towards the end of last year, and I felt like a Panthers fan. I'm not. Go Pack Go. But I was like, let's go, Dave Canales, get Bryce Young going. You know what I'm saying? So,
it was massive. I mean, yeah, you called it out though. You called out the revitalization of some careers, and all of a sudden, Bryce Young, who we thought was done for pretty much, right? After his benching, we just deflated, everything's gone. And next thing you know, we're like, he's playing pretty well. So
his rookie year was brutal. And to be fair, like to the flip side of the coin, right? I was all about Dave Canales, but I didn't touch Bryce Young last year. It was one of those things where I was like, be aware that Bryce Young could actually be pretty good this year. I'm not touching him, but it could happen, right? It felt very like political, but that's just how it was. Let's stick on Carolina before I move over to DJ Moore, because we already were talking about the Jaguars Panthers game. I won't hash that out again, right? It's Jaguars Panthers. I love the game. I think there's shootout potential. I want players from this game in my fantasy football lineup. So I'm pulling up Ted McMillan on the all week winner. I am treating him as a instant, like just add water, like just added to the offense. I'm treating him like an instant wide receiver 2 with genuine wide receiver 1 upside in PPR leagues, because catches are going to be a big part of how he gets his points. And again, I'm expecting this to be a high scoring game. Passing volume, I want players that are going to be playing in this game. I'm expecting anywhere between 12 to 17 PPR points, anywhere between 7 to 10 targets. The path to 20 plus, there is a foreseeable window where he can get you 20 plus PPR points, double digit looks, right? We need 10 plus targets, a touchdown against the Jaguars defense that just bled wide receiver production all of last year. Feel really good about the game itself. Adam Thielen is gone. That frees up 6 plus targets per game that need to find new homes. Jalen Coker is on IR. I didn't even mention that in here. Xavier Legette, like, he's fine, but it was pretty clear pretty early that he wasn't going to be their long-term option at wide receiver 1. I think he'll be a great wide receiver, a solid wide receiver 2 in the NFL, but Ted McMillan is the guy. There's no questioning who is going to lead the team in targets this year. It's Ted. Stays healthy, it's going to be Ted. If you want to read his player profile from my rookie rundown, if you want to get more familiar, more intimate with who Ted McMillan is, what we like about him as a football player, what we don't like about him as a football player, that's all in here, right? You can get access to this anytime you want. Here we go. Dave Canales' glowing resume with wide receivers. Dude, I'm telling you, I am the biggest Dave Canales fanboy on the planet. But Dave Canales oversaw each of the 3 best years that Doug Baldwin ever had in his career as the Seahawks wide receiver coach from 2015 to 2017. He oversaw the 2 best years of both DK Metcalf's and Tyler Lockett's careers as the Seahawks passing game coordinator in 2020 and 2021. He oversaw a top 3 season from Mike Evans as the Buccaneers offensive coordinator in 2023, not to mention completely revived the career of Baker Mayfield. And all of that is before we even get to the matchup. Last year's Jaguars, hemorrhaged the 5th most PPR points per game, including the 7th most catches, 3rd most yards, 14th most touchdowns. And now you're getting a guy like Ted McMillan, who is a solid bet for 10-ish targets in a potentially high-scoring game, a game that the Panthers are expected to lose, might have to dial up extra pass attempts. I love Ted McMillan this week. I really do. And I drafted a ton of DJ Moore, but I don't know if I'm as bullish on DJ Moore. Let's find out. Like, I genuinely don't know the answer to this question until I go through this exercise. That's why I do it this way. That's why this whole resource even started. When I was doing my own start-sit decisions like a decade ago, I had to write these all out for myself before I could finally decide who I wanted. And that's where this whole thing was born. That's where this whole thing came from. So DJ Moore, okay. I'm treating him this week as a strong wide receiver 2 with wide receiver 1 upside, even in a low scoring game. Now, we already talked about the game, so I won't belabor this too much, but this thing projects as a bit of a slugfest, right? Both teams have low implied totals. Of course, there's always potential for JJ McCarthy to ball out, Ben Johnson to get his offense lit up, and this game could exceed expectations. But when you look at the numbers, the expectation is that this game is going to be a low scoring game, right? That automatically puts a little bit of a dent in DJ Moore's stock, because ultimately what we're looking for is touchdowns. That's the fastest way to fantasy points. And if it's going to be a low scoring game, that's not necessarily a good thing for DJ Moore. Now, there's plenty of other ways he can butter his bread, but that's the idea there. Jason, pay attention here. We're talking about DJ Moore right now, so this will help here. Now, DJ Moore and the new and much improved coaching staff, arguably the top offensive mind in football, Ben Johnson, is now calling the shots in Chicago. Now, when he was in Detroit with the Lions finished top 16 in passing attempts, top 8 in passing yards, and top 8 in passing touchdowns in all 3 seasons that Ben Johnson was there. Better yet, they finished 2nd in passing yards and 4th in passing touchdowns in each of the last 2 seasons. Amon-Ra St. Brown was a top 7 wide receiver in all 3 seasons under Ben Johnson, including wide receiver 3 in 2023 and wide receiver 2 just last year, while Jamison Williams was fantasy's wide receiver 22, right? So you guys get the idea. Ben Johnson knows how to get his guys the ball, and that matters for guys like DJ Moore. Now, in 17 full games that he played with Caleb Williams last year, he was already strong. 14 plus PPR points, 8 plus targets per game. The floor was solid. He got you 10 plus PPR points 75% of the time. He had some explosive weeks. He scored 25 plus PPR points about 10% of the time. So he was already good even before Ben Johnson. And then you get to the matchup. So last year, by the way, DJ Moore absolutely tormented and destroyed the Minnesota Vikings. He balled out. He played 2 games against the Vikings. He caught 15 of 15 targets for 152 yards and 1 touchdown. He scored 20 PPR points per game in those 2 contests against the Minnesota Vikings. He scored 24 plus on 7 targets in week 12, and then he got 15 points on 8 targets in week 15. And by the way, last year's Minnesota Vikings were literally the worst defense in all of football when it came to preventing wide receivers from scoring fantasy football points. They allowed the most PPR points per game to wide receivers, most catches, 2nd most yards, 14th most touchdowns. So my friend, you got a tough decision on your hands here between DJ Moore and Ted McMillan, but it's a good problem to have, because ultimately I do like both of these guys. I would say if you're going for the floor, DJ Moore is going to feel like a safer bet because he's an established wide receiver. We know he's the wide receiver 1. There is some target competition there. The Bears got weapons for days, right? They got Rome Odunze. They drafted Colston Loveland, Luther Burden. DeAndre Swift should have a decent year. I feel like I'm forgetting somebody besides DJ Moore. Olamide Zaccheaus, right? Cole Kmet. Yeah. Like, there's guys everywhere. So DJ Moore is going to feel like a safer bet because he's the established veteran wide receiver, while Ted McMillan, we've never seen him in a regular season NFL football game. But man, I'd say the targets tip in Ted McMillan's favor, where like he should have more overall targets than DJ Moore does, but the efficiency that DJ Moore can have in Ben Johnson's offense, Man, I'm telling you, some of these decisions that we've been talking about here, Tanner, I'd say are like, 70-30, 60-40. This one's 50-50. This is like,
it really is.
Find your favorite, most shiny coin and flip that bad boy.
Ultimately,
I'd probably go with DJ Moore here, but I'm telling you, dude, it's like 51% to 49%.
It's really close in both matchups, like you said, favorable. Yeah. So that's where it makes it tough here. We got time for a couple more questions. We'll get one Discord. We'll get one here in the comments here before we get out of here. But guys, just know that you can unlock your week winner here and get all the same data that Mikey's providing today on the show. WAP.com/BBFF. You can go down in the description. The link is there. It'll take you right up. I mean, you can get this week winner here as well with all the data here to help you with your lineup. So,
yeah. And guys, I do this every single week. Like week 2 is going to be available next week. Week 3 is going to be available. That's what's it almost gives me heartburn. This thing takes me 30 plus hours to create. And in 24 hours, this thing's going to be extinct. Like it does, like this week won't matter anymore in 24 hours. So
noon hits, it's gone. Pretty
much. There's still the 3 games, but I get what you're saying.
So I do see, I see Jason, right? We already talked about DJ Moore. There's a Jalen Warren in here as well. Kind of comments here, which Jason, we appreciate you tuning in here. There's one from the Discord that talks about Jalen Warren here. Since you already talked about DJ Moore, Aaron Jones or Jalen Warren here. I know Jalen Warren just got his big extension that just came into play, and I don't necessarily know how that's gonna come into play for Pittsburgh here on the carries, but what's your thoughts here?
Yeah, Jason, so I think you'll be interested in this as well. Obviously, since Jalen Warren's under consideration for you, I'm going to start by talking about Caleb Johnson. And I will say I'm going nowhere near Caleb Johnson in week 1. It's one of those wait and see things. It's Caleb Johnson and Jalen Warren were listed as co-starters on their depth chart for most of the offseason. And then leading up to week 1, suddenly Caleb Johnson isn't even RB2. He's RB3 behind Kenneth Gainwell. Again, take depth charts with a grain of salt, but there's no, you can't sugarcoat that as a good thing. It's like, I'm not expecting Ja'Cory Kresge-Merritt to really be the RB4 in Washington, but it's not like it's a good thing that he was listed as that. So my point is, I'm not touching Caleb Johnson this week. I think there's a lot of risk. And because of that, it naturally makes me like Jalen Warren more than I would even in a typical week, right? He's terrific in pass protection, and that's going to matter when you have Aaron Rodgers as your quarterback. Like that's a big deal. That's a bigger deal than people realize. Just being good at pass protection means Jalen Warren is going to be on the field. And Caleb Johnson struggled in pass protection earlier in this offseason. So that matters. That alone puts Jalen Warren on the football field. The game itself, I'm going to pull up Jalen Warren here. The game itself is arguably the most nauseating, nasty fantasy football game that there is in the week 1 slate. Like it's friggin' gross, man. 37.5 over under. Like there's going to be no touchdowns. Both defenses are pretty solid. Neither team's implied total is even 21 points. Like it's just bad. All of this orange and yellow that you see on the week winner, that tells us like they were pretty good as a defense. They limited quarterbacks, limited running backs, limited wide receivers. Jets gave up a ton of tight ends apparently, but the game itself is one that when I'm stuck in start sit decisions, I tend to, this is a game where I'm like, I don't like that game. I just kind of want to stay out of it. If I'm pressed on a decision where I need to make a decision between 2 guys, that's often a tiebreaker for me. But Jalen Warren, man, this week, there's a possibility that he's not a workhorse, but he might see his largest workload that he'll see all season in week 1. Like this week might end up being the largest workload that he gets all season. I am treating him, I usually treat him like a flex. This week I'm treating him like a low end RB2 or a high end RB3. Low scoring game. I'm projecting him for about 12 to 16 PPR points on 14 to 17 touches behind Arthur Smith's run heavy approach There is a path to 18 to 20 PPR points if he can get loose for a touchdown, or if he can bump his targets up and get 3 to 4 catches. We already talked about the game. It's nasty, but Jaylen Warren, this is a beast. I don't think I'm going to read this whole thing, but there's a couple things that I do want to highlight here. Najee Harris is gone, right? That's 17 plus touches per game. Everybody expected that to be Caleb Johnson when they drafted him with the 83rd overall pick, but we already talked about the offseason developments there and how he's not a good pass blocker and how Aaron Rodgers is the quarterback and all of those things. And then ultimately, when all of that is said and done, Jaylen Warren signed a $12 million guaranteed contract extension. Like, the Steelers wouldn't give him that if they weren't going to use him. Like, if this was going to be Caleb Johnson's offense, the Steelers wouldn't have turned around and given Jaylen Warren $12 million. Like, he's going to be on the field. That's what all of the data suggests. All of that is not even mentioning free agent Kenneth Gainwell, who, by the way, it's been reported time and time again that Mike Tomlin loves Kenneth Gainwell, right? It is Arthur Smith's offense, but Mike Tomlin is still the head coach over there. Like, Johnson's undoubtedly, he's going to get more involved as the season goes along, but he's really risky in week 1. But as for Warren, he's entering week 1 as an unquestioned RB1 in Pittsburgh. At worst, he's going to play the exact same role that he played last year, which was flex viable. And at best, he's going to be a sturdy RB2 with RB1 upside if he can get loose. He's averaging 11 plus PPR points on 13 plus touches per game. I think he's going to have somewhere around 15 touches in this game. So 12 PPR points, 13 PPR points. The matchup against the Jets. Now, last year's Jets did technically hold running backs to the 10th fewest PPR points per game. So pretty mediocre, pretty average, maybe a sliver under average in terms of strength. But they were a bit up and down when you dig into how the Jets gave up fantasy points to running backs last year. Through the air, the Jets were brutal on running backs. They held running backs to the 7th fewest catches, 10th fewest receiving yards. No, they didn't allow a single running back receiving touchdown all year last year. But on the ground, they were mediocre at absolute worst. They allowed the 14th most rushing yards, 16th most rushing touchdowns per game. Whole point is there's nothing that's terrifying about this matchup for Jaylen Warren. I think he's a very sturdy floor type of running back. Okay. Just kind of, I know we're also talking about Aaron Jones here, Tanner. I know I've already talked about 2 of Jason's with DJ Moore and Jaylen Warren. Out of those 2, DJ Moore is the ceiling guy. Jaylen Warren is the floor guy. So, Jason, I would say definitely consider your projections, consider the percentage likelihood of winning. Like, if you feel like you have a really good chance of winning already, then take the floor play. That's Jaylen Warren. That's going to be the safer points. But if you feel like you're going to lose, you need to swing for the fences, go for the upside. That's going to be DJ Moore. I won't dig into Jalen Waddle just for the sake of time. Again, if you ever want the week winner, you can see how to get it on the screen, but Jalen Waddle is going to be the same. It's very similar to what we're talking about with DJ Moore. High scoring game against the Colts. That game could shoot out, but Jalen Waddle's never going to be a floor guy. He's always going to be a ceiling guy. He can get you 20 plus. He could also get you 4. So Jaylen Warren's going to be a safer bet, but Waddle's going to be the ceiling. So Jason, I would say determine what you need. Do you need ceiling? In which case you want to go with Moore and Waddle? Do you need floor? In which case you want to get Warren in there? Or do you need a mixture? In which case Warren is a nice floor play and either receiver is a nice ceiling play.
There we go.
All right, let's go back to the other one. Aaron Jones, right? We're talking Jaylen Warren versus Aaron Jones, right? That was the other one?
Yep, that's the question.
So Aaron Jones, what's that?
No, you're saying you're good. That was the question.
All right, yep. Okay. So Aaron Jones, we talked about this game a lot. The Bears-Vikings game is a very hot topic, and rightfully so. From a fantasy standpoint, the game itself is not very exciting. We're expecting a low-scoring game. Both teams have pretty low implied totals. Generally speaking, it's a game to quote-unquote avoid. I want to use that term loosely, right? Because if you have Justin Jefferson, you're not avoiding Justin Jefferson. But now I will say things are looking good for Aaron Jones this week. Like, if you're going to use him, this isn't a bad week to do that. I'm treating him like an RB2 in a run-friendly matchup But there is a risk here. His ceiling is very much at risk because it's been reported all year that Jordan Mason might be the goal line guy. So if we're taking touchdowns away from Aaron Jones, that automatically lowers his ceiling, period. We talked plenty about the game script, so I'm not going to talk about Bears Vikings. New backfield competition. Beware of a smaller workload. I mean, the Vikings gave first of all, they traded for Jordan Mason. They gave up a 5th round pick and a 6th round pick. And then they turned around to give him a 2-year, $10 million contract. It's like we were talking about with Jaylen Warren. You don't do those things for a guy that's just going to like sit on your bench. You do those things when you intend to use that guy. Aaron Jones is getting up there in age. It's no secret that they don't want him to be going 20 plus touches per game. Jordan Mason is going to be involved. Aaron Jones' ceiling is at risk and his floor is at risk. In fact, Kevin O'Connell's already on the record calling Jordan Mason the RB1B instead of RB2, very much signaling like, hey, we got 2 number 1 RBs in Aaron Jones and Jordan Mason. He specifically mentioned short yardage situations. He talked about goal line opportunities. Those are key areas where Jordan Mason could help out the offense, which would be bad news for Aaron Jones. Either way, don't expect another 19 plus touches per game for Aaron Jones, as the Vikings probably want to get that number closer to 15 touches per game. Now, for what it's worth, Aaron Jones averaged 13 plus PPR points on 16 touches per game in 9 games last year, where he landed between 10 and 19 touches. So if he stays in that 10 to 19 range, he's still getting you 13-ish PPR points per game. He averaged 12 plus PPR points per game and 15 plus touches per game in 7 games where he landed between 13 and 16. And 13 to 16 feels like the healthy projection for Aaron Jones with Jordan Mason in the mix. 16 might be on the high side, but 13 feels like a nice-ish number. And in those games, he got you 12 plus PPR points. Now, I did say don't go full panic mode because it's not like Aaron Jones is getting benched or anything. He's still going to be plenty useful. In fact, he signed a contract extension of his own, 2 years, $20 million, including $13.5 million guaranteed. And Jordan Mason is there, but that doesn't mean that Aaron Jones has zero value. His contract suggests he'll remain heavily involved in his age 31 season. We'll skip over this part just for the sake of time, but the matchup itself, it's a pretty good one, or at least it was last year. Obviously, take it with a grain of salt. We'll see what happens, how the defenses start to shake out. But last year's Bears were a terrific matchup for running backs, specifically on the ground. They bled the 6th most touches, 2nd most rushing yards, 2nd most rushing touchdowns, and ultimately the 4th most PPR points per game. Now, that said, it is worth noting that they were a pesky opponent for receiving backs. They held them to the 12th fewest catches, 15th fewest receiving yards, no receiving touchdowns, but ultimately that's not something that's scary. They were still a bad defense when it came to containing running backs. So we're talking Aaron Jones versus Jaylen Warren, man. That's a really tough one. And I think I personally would go with Jaylen Warren, but I can't say I'd be lying if I told you I feel really confident in that answer. I think it's another one of those that it's like 51 to 49%, grab a coin and flip it. There's no clear choice there. Both of them are low scoring games. Both of them have a nice matchup. Actually, I mean, Aaron Jones theoretically has a better matchup, but man, that goal line work, that's where it's tough. Yeah. That's a scary proposition. Now, if you believe that game could exceed expectations and start to shoot out, if it could start to be a higher scoring game than people are expecting, then it's Aaron Jones. And I think that's more likely than Jets Steelers. Jets Steelers is probably going to be nasty. Everything about Jets Steelers feels like it's going to be gross. Vikings Bears, you can see the window of that game scoring. If JJ McCarthy turns out to be better than expected, if Ben Johnson has his offense ready to roll, it could get a little bit higher scoring. So I'm fine with Aaron Jones. I guess I would. I'm flipping.
Let me ask you.
Aaron Jones.
Let me ask you this here. Do you take into account that there's a rookie that sat out all last year at quarterback for the Minnesota Vikings versus Aaron Rodgers, who had Breece Hall and the backup there for thank you, Brandon Allen. So do you take an account there for the quarterback?
Say that again.
Do you take into account the quarterback and the experience that's there between these two guys?
I think it definitely matters. I think I think it matters for sure. I'm always wary of guys who have never played a snap in the NFL. Candidly, and I feel like I'm going to catch flack on this, I wasn't the biggest JJ McCarthy fan when he was being drafted last year. I remember writing in my rookie rundown, I said, if get what's blocked was a phrase that you like, you know how everybody says that for running backs? Oh, this guy's good at getting what's blocked for him. I feel like if that was a term you could use for quarterback, JJ McCarthy would be the poster boy. Like he's not going to be one of those sexy, flashy, like win the game by myself type of quarterbacks, MVP type of quarterbacks, but he got the job done. Like he's one of those guys that can get the ball to Justin Jefferson and TJ Hawkinson. I just think if you're looking for a guy who can dominate and has monster upside, I hate to say it because go Pack go, but Caleb Williams does have that appeal. So I do think the quarterback thing matters. And Aaron Rodgers, he's 41 years old, but let's not pretend that like we know what he can do with a football in his hands. I know he looks super slow and all that, but he doesn't need to be fast. He just needs to get the ball out quick, So
that's all it is. Yeah. No. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to go ahead and wrap up here, but keep leaving your comments here. Put it in the comments here. We'll answer as we can. On top of that, guys, if you just want to go look up the information yourself, gauge it based off the columns here. As you can see on this picture next to between us, get your week winner, WAP.com, BBFF.
Yeah, man. Can I jump in real quick?
Go for it, man.
I see that there's 2 on YouTube, and I'm not going to go into the heat map or any of that. I'm just going to go off the dome here and try and answer these ones for Jason and Patrick. Just real quick. Jason said, start to Pollard, Judy, Myers, Swift. Already starting Loveland. You probably have to start Loveland at tight end. That's what you're saying there. Tony Pollard.
Well, he has this one too, because he's thinking Loveland, Okonkwo, Strange, Ertz, and Otten.
Oh yeah, this is all over the place because Pollard.
It's a big one.
Yeah, this one's really tricky. Okay, so here I'll just talk about the guys and we'll go from there. Tony Pollard, I do like him this year. I don't love him this week. He's 8.5 point underdog against Denver. Like that has negative game script and red flags written all over it. That one's kind of scary. Jerry Jeudy, man, we talked about Joe Flacco throwing the ball 40 plus times. It's easy to like pretty much anybody who catches passes in the Browns offense. I like Jerry Jeudy. We talked about Jacoby Myers earlier in the show. DeAndre Swift, we didn't talk about. I'm bullish on him in 2025. I'm not super bullish on him in week 1, but he should be fine. He's going to be a nice safety play there. If you're aiming for safety, Swift is going to be the safest one in here, followed by Myers. If you're looking for upside, Jeudy should have some of it. Myers should have some of it. And Swift has a decent amount of upside himself as well. Loveland, I don't love. I'm not convinced he's even going to be the number 1 tight end. Like it might be Cole Kmet. Eventually it'll be Loveland, but in week 1, it might be Cole Kmet. Chigo Okonkwo, I do actually like if you're looking for a cheap source of targets. The Titans are 8.5 point underdogs. If they're going to have to throw the ball, it's Calvin Ridley and then a bunch of question marks. They got Alec Ayominor, Tyler Lockett, Chigo Okonkwo. Chig could be the number 2 receiver in that offense. So if you're looking for a cheap source of like 6 catches, that's a dude who could rack up some catches there. Brenton Strange, I love Brenton Strange this week, by the way. It's all in the week winner if you want to read why. I'm a big Brenton Strange guy. I have him in the top. Hold on, Tanner. Let me just show one part of the week winner. I won't dig into all the matchup analysis.
All you.
In the week winner, there's a tab down here at the bottom. If you click streamers and stashes, you can find defenses that I like, kickers that I like, and then tight ends that I like, and quarterbacks, as well as running backs to stash, which, by the way, that's a whole nother episode. I'm big on right before kickoff, picking up running backs that could become week winners and league winners if the guy in front of them goes down. We'll talk about that some other time, but Brenton Strange is at the very top of my tight end streamer list. So it'd be really tough to ignore. I'd be putting Strange in there over Loveland, over pretty much all those guys. And then Patrick, I'll do Patrick's really quick. Need to drop either Samson or Tootin. Who to drop? Oh man, it's the same dilemma, right? I mean, the Browns just finally signed Quinshon Judkins. eventually it's going to be Judkins' backfield, but probably not in week 1. It's like Samson's probably going to be involved. Both of them are in 3-way. Like the Browns have Jerome Ford, Samson, and Judkins. The Jaguars have Tank Bigsby, Travis Etienne, and Bashal Tootin. I think as long as Travis Etienne is on the Jaguars roster and Tank Bigsby is on the Jaguars roster, Tootin's going to be the odd man out, at least to start the season. So in the short term, Samson's going to have more value. In the long term, it's probably going to be Tootin. So if you need a spot right now, you could drop Tootin because Samson's going to have a little bit more value right now. Whew.
Love it.
All right.
Love it. You hit a lot, man. You hit a lot.
I hit a lot. I know this thing gets a little bit long. I'm sweating. Got to get some deodorant. It's been crazy. But like Tanner said, if you guys want access to the week winner, you can have it. Literally, it's always available. Week 1, week 2, week 3, all the way. I do a Super Bowl week winner. Like I go all the way from, I don't do preseason, so I'll say that. But whop.com/BBFF, WHOP.com/BBFF. I do have 2 different payment options. I actually, by popular request, popular demand, just launched a monthly payment option. If you don't want to like pay for a whole year, you just want to kind of do 1 month at a time. You'll get the week winner. You'll get access to our Discord server. You're going to get the waiver wire cheat sheets, the streamer tabs. You're going to get my mic drops, which means when news breaks, I send out an alert to everybody saying, hey, I recommend doing this, doing that. Oh, yeah. And you're going to get in on the monthly jersey giveaways. I give away a autographed jersey every single month just because you're a member and supporting my dream, supporting my business, Basement Brood Fantasy Football. So, Tanner, do you got anything else or should I wrap this thing up?
Let's wrap her up.
Whew. All right. Everybody, thank you for tuning in. This was episode 63 of Inside the 20. Tanner and I are planning on doing this every weekend. Keenan Allen or Hollywood Brown. I love that. Tanner and I are planning on doing this every weekend. We don't have a set day, set time yet. It's either going to be Friday night, Saturday afternoon, or Sunday morning. But if you like today's episode, please, you're helping us big time. If you like it, if you subscribe to the BBFF YouTube channel, we're really trying to get to 1,000 subscribers, and we're approaching close. We're almost under 100. Like we're getting there. So like the channel, subscribe the channel, and yeah, grab your week winner. But that's all we got for you guys today. Thank you very much for tuning into episode 63. Tanner, thank you so much for being here. It's awesome to have you. I'm excited you're going to be on the future episodes, and everybody else that is tuned in. Really appreciate you guys. We will talk to you soon. We'll see you on the fantasy football field. Cheers. This brew is for you.